All aboard! High-speed train service makes first trip across the border. And senior U.S. official denies plot to oust Trump.
Good evening and welcome. The Guangzhou-Shenzhen-Hong Kong Express Rail Link saw its first trip across the border today. Chief Executive Carrie Lam, together with Guangdong's governor and other top officials, were on the special service to Guangzhou. Haley Zhou begins our coverage.
3, 2, 1.
Almost 17 years since then Chief Executive Tong Chee-hwa announced plans to build a high-speed cross-border rail link, and more than 8 years since the Legislative Council approved funding. The first train set off this morning. The opening ceremony was officiated by Chief Executive Carrie Lam and Guangdong Governor Ma Xing-rui. Other top officials from the mainland and the SAR were there too. This included the head of Beijing's liaison office, Wang Zhimin, and the director of the Hong Kong and Macau Affairs Office, Zhang Xiaoming. Former chief executives Tong Chee-hwa and Leung Chun-ying, representatives from the MTR Corporation, lawmakers, and executive council members were also present. In her opening remarks, the chief executive said the co-location arrangement would enable speedy customs clearance and provide comfort to travelers. Ma said the high-speed railway will help develop the Greater Bay Area. Lastly, MTR Corporation Chairman Frederick Ma said the express railway team shoulders huge responsibilities and pledged to serve travelers on the line. Afterwards, Lam and Ma toured the West Kowloon terminus along with other attendees, including the mainland port area. In this part of the terminus, some 800 officers from the mainland will be stationed to enforce Chinese laws. Hong Kong businessman Alan Zeman, who was one of those invited to ride the train today, says the co-location arrangement was speedy and convenient.
The co-location was very easy to do. It was simple. It was efficient. I think Hong Kong people will really love it.
The Vibrant Express left West Kowloon at 11:25 a.m. to Guangzhou South. Those returning to Hong Kong got back at around 1:30 in the afternoon. After getting off the train, legislator Michael Tian, who chairs LegCo's Railway Subcommittee, says there still is room for improvement.
The luggage to me is a problem because we are all limited to 20 kg. 20 kg, you can actually bring 2 suitcases. And then at the end of the compartment, there's a little rack, okay, which is definitely not enough.
The Guangzhou-Shenzhen-Hong Kong Express Rail Link begins operations tomorrow. Haley Zhou, TVB News.
Chief Executive Carrie Lam was happy with today's special service, saying she would use the Express Rail Link for future business trips. The trip to Guangzhou South took around 43 minutes. Guests toured the station and returned to Hong Kong on the same train. Guangdong Governor Ma Xing-rui and the director of the Hong Kong and Macau Affairs Office, Zhang Xiaoming, waved goodbye at the platform.
Well, away from the ceremonies, there were protests against the co-location arrangement at West Kowloon Station. As Kate Chu reports, some lawmakers say the arrangement could lead to more mainland laws being enforced here in the future.
Ahead of the opening ceremony this morning, protesters from various pro-democracy groups rallied near the West Kowloon station. Protesters included members of the Labour Party, League of Social Democrats, and the Co-location Bill Concern Group. They slammed the joint checkpoint arrangement for breaching the basic law, as well as the rail's massive construction costs and delays.
How about, next time, for the convenience or for the transportation reasons, any other place in Hong Kong can also be part of China using the Chinese law.
He also said the rail did not necessarily enhance convenience and expressed concern there was no substantial time frame for breaking even.
In reality, most of the time, you will spend definitely more than 48 minutes. The ROI, it was 6% when they first presented 8 or 7 years ago, and now they're talking about less than 2%.
Another pro-democracy lawmaker who declined an invitation to today's premier train ride also expressed criticisms on similar grounds.
The co-location arrangement has already severely damaged the one country, two systems and the rule of law of Hong Kong. That's why I don't think I'm appropriate to attend the ceremony. I will closely monitor the co-location arrangement by including the daily operations to see whether they fully operate in line with their promise according to the co-location arrangement.
Pan Democrats have no plans yet on whether to take further action tomorrow when the rail link formally begins operations. Kana Chu, TVB News.
Meanwhile, passengers have been asked to give themselves plenty of time at West Kowloon Station when the high-speed rail formally opens tomorrow. Our Caleb Leung reports.
The Hong Kong section of the Express Rail Link will officially commence service tomorrow, with 95 train pairs running on the first day. This includes 82 short-haul train pairs, as well as 13 medium to long-haul train pairs. MTRC Chairman Frederick Ma says ticket gates will open at 6 a.m. Passengers are reminded to bring their identification documents and train tickets. As travelers are unfamiliar with West Kowloon Station, Ma urged them to reserve 45 minutes for customs and security checks. The extra time includes taking photos at different spots inside the terminus. Ticket pre-sales began around 2 weeks ago. So far, more than 230,000 tickets have been sold. Secretary for Transport and Housing Frank Chen said demand for long-haul ticket sales was pretty good, with passengers buying ahead of time. As for short-haul services between Hong Kong and Guangzhou South, most passengers are expected to buy tickets on the day of the journey or a day earlier. Therefore, Chen said ticket pre-sales for short-haul routes could not reflect the actual demand. The government has also stressed that it has done its part to encourage people to use the express rail service. Commerce Chief Edward Yao said the Hong Kong Tourism Board, the Tourism Commission, and the tourism sector have done promotional work in the Greater Bay Area to encourage people to use the express rail link. Yao stressed promotions for the rail link will also be carried out in other mainland provinces. Caleb Leung, TVB News.
There were shockwaves and quick denials after the New York Times reported that U.S. Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein suggested invoking a constitutional amendment to oust President Donald Trump from office. Alan Buknia reports.
Rod Rosenstein is the man in charge of the Robert Mueller investigation into Russian meddling in the 2016 presidential election. The reported conversation took place at a tense meeting in May of 2017 in the wake of Trump's firing of FBI Director James Comey. Law enforcement agencies were growing increasingly unnerved about the chaos in the White House. In the meeting, Rosenstein reportedly discussed secretly recording the president and invoking the Constitution's 25th Amendment to remove him from office as unfit to govern. Rosenstein has said the New York Times report is inaccurate.
It's really important to note, though, that there are differing accounts as to the nature of this type of comment. There are people who say that Rosenstein made the comment in a moment of frustration and he meant it sarcastically as a joke and did not actually intend for any sort of secret recording of the president to take place. There are other people who disagree with that assertion.
The report threatens to cloud Rosenstein's fate at the Justice Department, some calling for him to be fired immediately. It adds to Trump's long-standing claims that his law enforcement agencies are biased against him and are determined to undermine his presidency. So far, Trump has resisted calls from conservative commentators to fire Rosenstein and replace him with someone who would supervise the Mueller probe more closely or just fire him. At a rally in Springfield, Missouri, Trump did not name Rosenstein directly, but did speak of the lingering stench at the Justice Department.
Just look at what is now being exposed in our Department of Justice and the FBI. Look at what's going on. Look at what's going on. And I want to tell you, we have great people in the Department of Justice, but you had some real bad ones. You've seen what's happened at the FBI. They're all gone. But there's a lingering stench, and we're going to get rid of that too.
Alan Buknia, TVB News.
In Tanzania, people watched in horror as body after body was pulled from a ferry that capsized before reaching the shore. Right now, 130 people are dead from a ferry that was only supposed to carry 100 passengers. The government admits it was overcrowded and the cargo far exceeded the 25 tons allowed. Plus, the ferry captain left the steering to someone untrained, so arrests have been ordered. Even though 40 people were rescued, there are fears up to 200 others could be dead. Ferry operators in Tanzania are notorious for carrying more passengers than allowed.
Still to come on tonight's news. Senior housing official tries to explain why reclamation is the best option to solve Hong Kong's land shortage. Owner of 3D gun-making company arrested for alleged sex with a minor.
And welcome back. So what's the answer to Hong Kong's land shortage? Deputy Housing Chief Raymond So says land reclamation is something people will have to accept to help solve this issue. Christy Lung has that story.
The 5-month consultation on land supply options will close this Wednesday. Among the 18 options, land reclamation seems to be a hot potato.
I had a hesitation to talk about reclamation when I prepared my speech today, because I know that whenever the word reclamation is mentioned, then people will speculate that is the government has some pre-assigned agenda to do reclamation. But we still have to face the reality.
He said reclamation has been one of the city's major sources of land.
Among the new developed land over the past 2 decades, it's estimated over 40% of them were created through reclamation. Yet, our reclamation progress has quickly slowed down or even come to a stop in the last decade.
He even compared the situation in Hong Kong with Singapore.
Singapore government also has a plan to continue the reclamation progress with an effort to support a target population from the current 5 million people to 7 million people by the year 2030. That means they are going to do more and more.
Land reclamation, developing fringes of country parks, and other options widely discussed during the consultation will be included in a report which the Task Force on Land Supply will submit to the Chief Executive on Monday. This will help Carrie Lam frame land and housing policies for her policy address next month. Task Force Chairman Stanley Wong says the reports will list out various opinions on all options. He added the full reports will only be ready by the end of the year, as they have to analyze data collected from the consultation. Christy Lung, TVB News.
The owner of a U.S. company that sells plans to print 3D guns has been arrested in Taiwan for allegedly having sex with a minor. Cody Wilson was arrested last night at his hotel in Taipei. This comes after a 16-year-old girl claimed Wilson paid her to have sex with him at a hotel in Texas. Wilson's attorney says he's willing to return to the U.S. to face charges there. Wilson is at the center of a legal battle over his plans to publish instructions to print 3D guns made of plastic. A federal judge has blocked him from doing so. British Prime Minister Theresa May has accused the European Union of creating an impasse in the Brexit talks.
He didn't explain how in any detail or make any counter-proposal. At this late stage in the negotiations, it is not acceptable to simply reject the other side's proposals without a detailed explanation and counter-proposals. So we now need to hear from the EU what the real issues are and what their alternative is, so that we can discuss them.
British newspapers said May had been humiliated by the EU leaders. The pound fell 1.5% after May's speech, with the prospect of a no-deal Brexit more likely. May finds herself in a difficult position. She doesn't have a parliamentary majority, and the pro-Brexit wing of her Conservative Party threatens to oust her if she compromises too much. Brexit negotiations are set to resume next month.
Federal officials in Mexico have declared a state of emergency across the state of Sinaloa due to flooding. The heavy rains and floods have left at least 3 people dead. 3 women were missing in the state capital after presumably being swept away. The tropical depression hit the area early on Thursday and dumped as much as 14 inches of rain in just 24 hours. And from all of us,